Alright, so we're going to add score and lives controls and do scoring and lives in our game. We'll start with score because it's the easier one to do. So I'm going to go to OBJ Vault by double clicking on it, and we're going to go to the OBJ Brick collision event. That's here. You can also double click on it in the events window. And right now all that's there is a move bounce all function call so that we can bounce off the brick, and then an audio of playing the break sound when the brick is hit. So the only thing that we need to add here is we need to set the value of a global variable. So I'm going to bring that set global variable over. Okay, because I'm using the set global variable block and not the regular assign variable block, I do not need the global dot in front. I can just say player score. Okay, and the value is 15 because we said we're going to increase score by 15. And then I click relative to make sure I increase the score by 15 and I'm not just setting the score to 15. It would look kind of weird having the game continually played and having the score continually be just 15. Okay, so I used the set global variable block because I'm setting a global variable for sure. So I might as well use the proper block for that. Then I just have to type player score. I don't have to type the global dot because I'm not accessing it outside of a global variable block. And then the value is 15, click relative. Okay. And then we can just test that real quick by running and getting the ball to hit a brick and having it break. And then hit another brick and have it add 15 again. So, here we go. There the score goes up by 15. And then I want to wait and see. 30, 45, and so on. So it looks like our score is working as expected. Okay. So that was easy enough. Score is done. Don't have to worry about score anymore. Score is taken care of. Just adding one action to the collision block with the brick. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have to fix it later. Like I'm in the middle of recording right now. I got to continue with that. Okay. So, let's do lives real quick. I'm going to click on intersect boundary because that's where we're going to do lives. And remember, we already have code in there for the other four sides of the ball. Hitting the left, hitting the right, and hitting the top because we've already done that for those three sides. So we need to add the same code but for the bottom. So I need to get an instance variable to get the bounding box bottom, store it as a temporary variable, and then check if we're touching the bottom. That's the very first thing that has to happen. So when I drag those out, though, I need to remember that when I do the get instance variable, I'm not going to put it below the play audio because that would stick it inside the if variable. I'm actually going to drag it out below the if variable, and that will bump it down below. If I were to put it here and attach it to the play audio, it would be part of this group of code that's going to run inside the if for the top, which is not what I want. So I'm making sure that I stay outside of that by dragging it over under the if variable. And then I'm going to select bounding box bottom and change the target to the word bottom and click temp. So bounding box, we're getting an instance variable. We're getting the bounding box bottom of the ball, which is a y coordinate of the bottom of the bounding box. And then we're going to check and see, is that bottom? So we're going to add another if variable right underneath that. Is the variable bottom? is the bottom greater than or equal to room underscore height this time? Room height is the equivalent of room width, but for vertical. Okay? It'll give me whether or not the bottom of the box, the bottom of the ball is touching the bottom of the screen. Okay? Because if the ball is touching the bottom of the screen, we need to do a few things. One, we need to lower lives by 1. We need to reset the game so that the ball can be restarted. So we have to, I guess, put the ball back on the bat. And we've got to make it so that we can hit spacebar to start the game again. Okay? So the first part of that is very easy to do. We are updating a global variable. So I'm going to drag out a set global variable to the right of the if variable. And the variable I'm changing is player lives. The value I'm going to use is -1, and I'm going to click relative. So I'll zoom in so we can see that. So the set global variable. 1, it's attached to the if. 2, it's got the player lives global variable as the name. -1 for the value, and relative selected. So that I'm adding -1 to the player lives variable, which will result in it lowering by 1. Okay. So once that happens, we lose a life. We need to get the ball back on the bat. Okay? The ball is 16 pixels wide. The bat is 16 pixels thick. Okay? So we're going to use the jump to point. And we're going to jump to the point. Let's see. We need obj bat.x, because the x of the ball will need to be the x of the bat. And then for y, we're going to do obj bat.y, but -32. Because we need, is it -32? No. -16. Because the middle of the bat and the middle of the ball are 16 pixels away from one another. Because the bat is 16 pixels thick, the ball is 16 pixels thick, but both their x coordinates are in the middle. So that's 8 and 8, which is 16. Okay? So I'm not jumping the ball to start because I'm not assuming the bat is at the start position either. Now, you might think jumping the point, okay, that's it, right? Not really. The ball's still moving. We got to stop the ball. So we have to set the speed of the ball to 0. Which really all you need to do is drag out a set speed, and that'll set the defaults to direction and speed 0. Okay? So certainly you got to jump to a point, and we can always do the set speed first too, it doesn't matter. But we got to stop the ball from moving also. Okay? So we're moving the ball back onto the bat, stopping the ball from moving. Now the final thing is I've got to set it up so that I can press space again. Because that's how I have to restart. And the reason why we can't press space in the middle of the game is because if we go to the press space object, we have this variable called go that is our flag. Right? If go is false, then I'm allowed to start the ball by pressing space. If it's not going to let me. And as soon as we press space, one of the blocks here is to assign the value of true to the go variable. Which means if we want to set it up so we can use it again, we just need to assign it to false. So we're just going to use an assign variable after the set speed. The variable is called go, and the value we're going to set is false. Because that was the flag we used to allow the ball to be restarted. So now that we've got all this stuff in there, so we have, going back to the top, check, we get the bounding box bottom value, which is a y coordinate. We check and see, is that value greater than or equal to the room height? If it is, okay, that means we've touched the bottom of the screen. It's now time to do all the stuff it takes to lose a life. Reduce the lives by 1, jump the ball back onto the bat, stop the ball, and then reset it so that I can actually press space again. This should work then, according to this. Let's see. Never want to assume. So here we go. Start. I'm just going to let it go. I lost my life. I can only see 2 lives. The ball is still on the bat. If I press space, it starts again. And it just starts like the game. So, now, once I lose a second life, same thing should happen. And it does. So now, the problem is, of course, if I lose too many lives, I'm probably, well, at this point, I shouldn't be playing anymore because I've lost all my lives. But, at least, we know it works. We'll deal with game over conditions later. But for right now, we've got it working. And that's all I wanted to get done today. So that's all we're going to do today.